6:30. We're going to come out of our closed meeting. Ms. Oshrin, could you please read us back in?
I move that this council certify by recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes. All right, we are back into open meeting. My name is Brian Pinkston. I'm vice mayor, and I'm standing in for our mayor, Juan Diego Wade, who's traveling this week. We'll begin the business meeting with a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Are there any announcements? No? All good? Okay. We have two proclamations tonight. If Ms. Oshrin would please read the first one, the Parks and Rec Month.
Sure. And actually, one brief small announcement.
Okay, go for it.
For anyone celebrating Independence Day this week with fireworks, please be safe.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, our first proclamation, Park and Recreation Month 2024. Whereas parks and recreation are integral parts of communities throughout the country, promoting health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, promoting time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas parks and recreation encourage physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas parks and recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas parks and recreation increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, our parks and natural recreation areas encourage the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas parks and recreation are essential and adaptable infrastructure that make our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas the City of Charlottesville recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, offering over 200 programs such as swim lessons, dance, gymnastics, day camps, nature programs, and athletic leagues, with over 2,000 registered participants for this summer of 2024. And whereas special events in July include Sounds of Summer on July 13th at Tonsler Park featuring the Tara Mills Band, Bluegrass and a free meal off the grill from 6 to 8 p.m., and the Sunday Sundown events on July 21st from 12 to 2 p.m. at Washington Park featuring free meals and free access to the pools. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Charlottesville City Council that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the City of Charlottesville. Signed and sealed on this first day of July 2024 by Vice Mayor Brian Pinkston.
I think perhaps you're going to come up and receive this from us? Sure. Yeah. Ms. Oshrin?
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, first I'd like to thank the staff of Parks and Rec.
Okay.
They are the individuals that actually take care of our community. And just a few reminders, since I have council here and I'm on camera. Again, we are still in the midst of our master plan and just upcoming events for public input. We have Monday, July 15th at 6:30 for public input for Court Square and Market Square. Thursday, July 18th at 6 o'clock, Benjamin Tonsler Park public input session. Tuesday, July 23rd at 6, Booker T, Washington, and that will be held at Carver Recreation Center. And the last one will be Tuesday, August 20th. That's when we will be talking to the community about the needs assessment.
Great, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
All right. Our next proclamation?
Sure. So this is a proclamation for Charlottesville PEG TV's 30th anniversary. Whereas the current Charlottesville PEG TV operation was launched in the fall of 1993, and whereas Channel 10 is designated for local government programming, Channel 13 for public programming, and Channel 14 for educational programming, and whereas the Charlottesville PEG TV operation partnered with KTEC from 2000 to 2015 and offered vocational training and multimedia production to area students, and whereas the Charlottesville City of Charlottesville Office of Communications assumed management of the PEG TV operation in 2004, and whereas the Charlottesville Community Media Center was launched in 2019 and provides training and production resources to the community, serving as the home of the PEG TV operation, and whereas over 5,000 hours of local programming have been produced by community members and over 3,000 hours of civic meetings have been broadcast by dedicated city staff members, and whereas the Charlottesville PEG TV operation continues to serve the citizens of Charlottesville and surrounding counties by encouraging the production of original, thought-provoking programming, now therefore the Charlottesville City Council recognizes September 2023 to August 2024 as the 30th anniversary of Charlottesville PEG TV. We call upon the community to join in celebrating 30 years of continuous service to the Charlottesville community and invite local residents and nonprofit organizations to become members and produce their own original programming. Signed and sealed this first day of July 2024. Did you want to give any comments? Or?
Hi, I'm David Dillahunt, the Deputy Director of Communications and Public Engagement for the city, and thank you so much for this. This represents the hard work of countless residents and organizations in our community, as well as the tireless efforts of a dedicated small group of city employees. And we are here for the community. This is television, local television with a purpose, as we like to say, for the community, by the community. We are here to help every member of the Charlottesville area share their message with residents in the area and beyond. And you can find out more at cvillemedia.org. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so now we'll move to community matters. There are 5 pre-registered speakers, leaving 11 slots for additional speakers on community matters. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. We'll now open the floor to pre-registered speakers. Is our first speaker available? The first person I have is Alex Jansen. Please state your name and your address and your topic.
This is working. Alex Jansen, 144 Bennington Road,
Okay.
Charlottesville. It's just outside of the city limits, but I do use the city gas.
Fantastic.
And that's what prompted me to
Okay.
give you all this information.
Go for it.
This is food for thought
Okay.
in considering your decarbonization plans or program. As far as I've found out, CO2 does not cause warming or climate change. Solar output variation and changes in the planetary positions relative to the sun cause climate change. And there's research on this website to back that up. Therefore, I see no reason to shut down the natural gas service or stop burning fossil fuels. The greenhouse effect is a basis for human-caused global warming and climate change, referred to as a myth. Professor R.W. Wood performed a relevant experiment in 1909 and found the temperature in a greenhouse did not exceed the maximum solar heating. Per the radiative greenhouse effect promoted by the UN IPCC, radiation trapped inside the atmosphere should induce a temperature on the surface greater than the maximum solar heating. It did not do that. Joe Postma, a physicist, performed an experiment himself on that and found that the surface temperature was only equal to the maximum solar heating temperature. And all this is on the website. Ian Plimer pointed out that during the time of life on Earth, the atmosphere has changed from at least 5%. And being a geologist, he knows that stuff. CO2 to the present atmosphere of 0.04%, yet life evolved, and there was no irreversible catastrophic warming in the geologic past, despite Earth's CO2-rich atmosphere. If a high atmospheric CO2 in the past did not drive global warming, then a far lower atmospheric CO2 in the modern atmosphere cannot drive global warming. Now, I'm not going to have time to read anything else, but at the bottom of this section F, you can read that for yourself. This was a plan started by a group of people back in 1968 to reduce the population of the Earth, because they were saying the Earth cannot produce enough food or energy to support 7.5 billion people. So their plan, and you can read it all there and take it for which way you want it, but
Okay, thank
this
you
was
so
just
much.
food for thought.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, take care. Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Nar Maya Garung, and I understand that there will be an interpreter joining by Zoom.
Yes.
Okay?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening to all.
Thank you for being here.
Before she starts, we will double the time, the speaking time, to allow for
Interpretation.
interpretation.
Great.
Good
Can you
morning.
step closer to the mic?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nor Gurung. I'm from Bhutan. Now I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, Mickey Drive.
हजुर भन्नुहोस् न
हजुर, अनि आज चाहिँ अब के अरे यो गार्डनको बारेमा चाहिँ म भन्न गइरहेछु.
I'd like to talk something. I'd like to say something about the garden program here.
गार्डन चाहिँ अब हाम्रो लागि धेरै इम्पोर्टेन्ट हो हैन. अनि यो गार्डनमा चाहिँ अब हामीले अर्ग्यानिक तरिकाले उत्पादन गरेको सागसब्जीहरू हामीले खान पायौँ भने हाम्रो स्वास्थ्यको लागि पनि धेरै राम्रो हुन्छ र एकदमै हजुर त्यसको लागि चाहिँ
छोटो
एकदम
छोटो गरेर बोलौँ न ल.
हुन्छ.
First of all, I'd like to say that this garden program is very important to us. It has helped us grow our own food source, and we are able to grow our own food organically, which is a source of good health.
हाम्रो के अरे यो बालबच्चाको लागि पनि अब एउटा गार्डन भएपछि हैन कसरी उत्पादन गर्ने अनि नानीहरूलाई सिकाउनु पनि सजिलो हैन. उनीहरूले सिक्छ, उनीहरूलाई एकदमै सिकाउनु महत्त्वपूर्ण जस्तो लाग्छ.
And other important thing is our children are seeing and learning how to grow food and the possibilities of growing food, your own food, and then they're learning a lot from us, which is very important.
अनि के अरे अमेरिकामा अब हैन धेरै थरीका भेला भएर बस्न पाएको छौँ र हैन गार्डनमा विभिन्न आफ्नो आफ्नो देशको हैन भेजिटेबलहरू अब विभिन्न टाइपको भेजिटेबलहरू उत्पादन गरेर खान पाएको छौँ. एकदमै खुसी लागेको छ.
The other thing I am very happy about is in America we have diverse people, diverse cultures, and in the garden various different people grow their own food, and then we are able to share and we are able to grow varieties of different food, and it's really happy. It really makes us happy.
अनि हामीले यो जति पनि यो गार्डनमा जति काम गर्छौँ हैन एउटा एक्सरसाइजको रूपमा हामीले जति पनि यो भनाइ छ एउटा आफूले यो गार्डनमा आफ्नो यो माटोसँग चाहिँ हैन जोडिएर यो काम गर्यौं भने चाहिँ एकदम बिराम पनि हैन रोग बिराम पनि भाग्छ, सुगर प्रेसर भाग्छ भनेर चाहिँ भन्छन्. अब त्यो पनि एकदम हो जस्तो लाग्छ.
So working in the garden and growing your own food gives peace to the soul, and it's also a way to stay healthy physically and mentally. It's said that people that work with the earth, they are always healthier. They're hardly sick, and so it helps reduce pressure. It helps with people with sugar or diabetic people, earth helps.
अनि एकदमै हामीले हैन यो गार्डनमा आफ्नै तरिकाले हैन त्यहाँ उत्पादन गरेर खान पाएको छौं, त्यहाँ रमाउनु पाएको छौं, एकदमै खुसी लाग्छ हैन। अब पार्टी बर्थडे भन्दाखेरि पनि मलाई चाहिँ यो गार्डनमै काम गरिराख्नु पाए खुसी लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ हैन। एकदमै धन्यवाद उहाँहरूले चाहिँ हामीलाई यो गार्डनमा एकदमै फ्री अब हैन मौका दिनु भएको छ हजुरहरूले, एकदम धन्यवाद भन्न चाहन्छु अनि एकदमै खुसी छु।
I'd like to thank the city of Charlottesville for providing the space for us. We enjoy and we thrive working in the garden. I think I'd say that I enjoy working in the garden more than attending parties or birthday parties. So I'd like to thank the city for providing this opportunity, and hopefully in the future we are able to continue and grow.
अनि हजुर अनि अब कन्टिन्यू हामीले त्यो गार्डनमा चाहिँ हैन गार्डन गर्न पायो भने एकदमै खुसी छौं, खुसी लाग्छ, एकदमै गर्न पाऊँ फेरि आउँदो दिनहरुमा पनि हामीले चाहिँ गार्डनमा प्रगति हैन उन्नति गरेर खान पाऊँ यही भन्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद धेरै धेरै हजुरहरुलाई।
So hopefully we are able to grow more in the garden, and I hope we are able to progress more, and we are hopeful and looking forward to working in the garden in years to come. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity that you've provided me to speak my mind, and I'd like to thank the city.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Excellent. Okay. Next speaker, Cecilia Laps-Stoltzfus.
Good evening, Council. My name is Cecilia Laps-Stoltzfus, and I'm the manager of the Food and Agriculture Programs at International Rescue Committee, located at 375 Greenbrier Drive. And it's my absolute pleasure to follow Nar in her remarks. This evening, I'm here representing IRC's Food and Agriculture Program, known as New Roots, regarding item 8 on the agenda. As our New Roots mission states, New Roots is a multicultural community growing food together to support health, connections, and power. Each year, New Roots engages more than 100 refugee and immigrant gardeners, as well as countless community volunteers in stewardship of 6 community garden and farm sites across Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Our largest and most popular garden is known as New Roots Farm, which is located at 410 Old Lynchburg Road, adjacent to Azalea Park. New Roots Farm has now been host to 10 seasons of the IRC's New Roots farming programs, and here we carry on the agricultural legacy of a site that offers prime soil of statewide agricultural significance and a great location accessible to many neighborhoods. Over the past decade, gardeners and their families have stewarded the health of our watershed through sustainable agricultural practices, grown hundreds of thousands of pounds of culturally appropriate produce to infuse into our local food system, and transformed the site into a vibrant community space. For some, urban farming means filling the freezer with corn, leafy greens, and African eggplant for year-round enjoyment. For others, it may be about growing Nepali hot chilies or Afghan leeks or other crops that are very hard to find and hard to afford in our local stores. And for most, it means building an active outdoor lifestyle in community with friends new and old. Alone, New Roots Farm more than doubles the garden capacity available to residents in Charlottesville's public garden plots operated by city parks, so it's filling a very critical need. Since the city's purchase of New Roots Farm last August, partnerships between Parks and Rec, the Ravenna Trail Foundation, and IRC New Roots have led to the installation of a new pedestrian bridge, improvements to the gravel access road for the site, and just 2 days ago, safety improvements to the stream crossing connecting Azalea Park to New Roots Farm. Meanwhile, over the past year, New Roots Garden members and staff have contributed their perspectives to the current Parks and Recreation Strategic Master Planning process to craft the future of the site and the Parks Network. So now, with the security offered by a multi-year lease, IRC New Roots would be better poised to engage garden members and community partners in implementing further improvements at the site, from farm systems to environmental conservation to continuing opportunities for multicultural exchange. In closing, I just want to thank City Council for believing in and investing in New Roots Farm.
Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker is Carrie J. Rock.
How you doing? My name is Kerry Rock. Good evening. I live at 941 Henry Avenue in Charlottesville City. I come before you this evening to speak about a long-standing issue of drug dealing and drug use in the Rose Hill neighborhood, specifically at Washington Park, 10th Ave, and Charlton Avenue. As residents, we have seen an increase in dealing along Charlton Ave, specifically in front of 901 and 907 Charlton Avenue. Neighbors have identified active drug dealers, drug cars, schedules, and tip-off operations to the police. To their credit, I know we've got Chief here tonight. To their credit, we have seen increased patrols, and we're thankful for that. But Charlton Ave can still be considered an open-air drug market at certain times of the day. While the metrics may state that crime is down in Charlottesville, it does not look or feel that way in Rose Hill. Some of these metrics are based on 911 calls, and frankly, not many people in our area call 911 as it has not shown a fruitful effect. On this point, even I did not call 911 during the last week's shooting in front of Washington Park. I would like to shift the focus quickly to Washington Park as it relates to the drug trafficking happening on Charlton Ave. Washington Park has been identified as a common drug use area under the sheltered area. I'm speaking about Washington Park on 10th and Preston, not the lower park. Multiple times my family has tried to take our children to the playground at Washington Park only to have to shield our children from someone intoxicated or under the influence of substances. There has even been a recent instance where my wife and I witnessed and can provide pictures and video of users and an alleged dealer going in and out of the community bathrooms in the middle of the afternoon while children were present on the playground, and one user having an OD where medical personnel and police were dispatched. I believe in the case of Washington Park, a camera system like the one in Tonsler Park could be a perfect way to provide a safe park environment for those trying to enjoy it legally. If funding for the camera system is needed, Do Good SEVA would be happy to assist in the fundraising efforts. As for Charlton Avenue, I do not have a solution in mind, just a request from a citizen that doesn't feel safe to walk down Charlton Avenue. Please also note that all these actions mentioned tonight are happening within 120 meters of Jackson Burley Middle School. Thank you for your time this evening, and I really appreciate the opportunity to start a conversation about this.
Thank you. We appreciate that information. So we appreciate that information. Thank you. Our next speaker is Tony Casey.
Hello, my name is Tony Casey. I live at 903 Charlton Avenue. Speaking similar topic, same topic as Mr. Rock, about the ongoing kind of crime activity and drug use, drug dealing there on the Charlton Avenue. I live there in the 900 block of Charlton Avenue where most of that activity seems to be focused. I can speak only of my firsthand, what I've witnessed firsthand since I've lived there. I moved in approximately 2 years ago. I've watched drug dealing happen at almost all hours of the day and night. As a matter of fact, it's so prolific that even the Google Street cameras have pictures of drug deals going on. So that's how often it happens that you seemingly can walk out on the street at any time of day and catch a drug deal in progress. The associated crimes with the drug dealing seem to be nonstop as well. Carrie mentioned it's not a crime, but overdoses in the Washington Park area are particularly concerning. There's been theft throughout the neighborhood, lots of package theft and things like that. We've witnessed from our video cameras late at night acts of prostitution, and in the morning my wife and daughter walked out one morning watching a man naked from the waist down, cleaning himself after engaged in prostitution activity in the vehicle parked in front of our house. There's been an uptick in gun violence as well. We've reported shots fired ourselves 3 times in just the 2 years that we've lived there. Again, as if those crimes weren't bad enough on their own merit, they're happening within just a stone's throw of Burley Middle School. I've witnessed drug dealers harassing children that are waiting there for their parents to be picked up after school, and I've witnessed them harassing children on their way to extracurricular activities in the evenings at the school as well. As a matter of fact, Virginia Code agrees with me that it's particularly egregious as it lists a separate and distinct felony to distribute narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school. I've made calls to 911. I've filed police reports online. I've emailed photos and videos of crimes being committed with police officers. I have spoken with Chief Kokas in our neighborhood association meetings. And so far, the only action that we've seen is an uptick in patrols, but those are momentary in any effect. Within minutes of the police cars leaving, activities resume. We've been told that it is the position of current stakeholders in the city government that it is not a high priority to prosecute these street-level crimes. So I just wanted to iterate that if it is not a high priority, it should be, as it is very concerning to myself and my neighbors there in the Rose Hill neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for coming to share. We appreciate it. Okay, so that's the end of our list of pre-registered speakers. We have space for 11 more. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, please come forward, state your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tricia Szynski, and I live at 916 Henry Avenue. I just wanted to, after hearing the other two gentlemen talk about their experiences, I just want to kind of share my observations and how I feel. I have lived at 916 Henry Avenue since 2002, and while I love my immediate neighbors, I do not feel safe at all. I walk my dog frequently to the park. I'm witness to drug dealings, people being passed out, people looking unwell, violence, odd individuals hanging out that look precarious. It's just, it needs attention. And as a social worker, I work for Albemarle County, and I realize that we're talking about two major problems, which is probably homelessness and substance use. So I just posed the question, how might we create a safe space that everyone can enjoy? And if there's any ideas of things that we could do in our neighborhood that are innovative, I would love to be part of that. Maybe it's doing more outreach within the Charlton area so that, I also see people funneling from that area. We obviously need more, I think, police presence. The video cameras would certainly help. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time and attention.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Who else would like to speak? Anyone else? Ed, come on up.
Good evening. I'm Peter Krebs from the Piedmont Environmental Council. I'm here tonight to speak about the IRC garden as part of Azalea South, as I think it's now known. I think of it as the Cason property because my organization has been working with the city for a decade or more to get this acquisition to happen, and it has happened, and thank you so much. This is such a great move by the city. I'm also speaking on behalf of the board of the Rivanna Trails Foundation this evening, and there's just a lot going on that's wonderful, and I want to praise it all. My organization is working with the county, the city, and VDOT to create a shared use path. It's been in the planning stages forever between 5th Street, Todd Lynchburg Road, and beyond that would be accessible to people of all abilities. Thanks to the city and also to the IRC, as was previously mentioned, we made a little down payment on that by creating a wide new pedestrian bridge that eliminates, frankly, the most harrowing crossing of the Rivanna Trail. So thank you for this as well. I would simply like to state that the tenants that you're taking on, the IRC, and the New Roots Garden specifically, is the highest best use for this property. There are so many good things about it, and we've heard some of it firsthand from the farmers themselves, and frankly, nobody could say it better than they. But I will say that they're actually adding value to the property simply by being there. So they're actually making it better. They've been amazing, delightful to work with on the trail. Also was mentioned today, just over the weekend, another rock hop safe crossing to Azalea Park was created by the labor of the farmers themselves, which was great. And also, PC was very instrumental in acquiring the property across Old Lynchburg Road, which I think is called Azalea West now. I think of it as the Forns property, the previous owner. And we're very committed to working with the city and with the IRC to think even more holistically about this park. And I don't know if this is really a specific part of the park's master plan, but this is exactly the type of thing that should be included in that work. Just to close really quickly, thank you for this. We hope you indeed approve this lease. It's a great deal for everyone.
Thank you, Peter. All right, who else would like to speak? Any other hands? Come on up. I could tell you were just on the verge. Can you tell us your name, please?
Yeah. My name is Alphonsine. Yeah.
And I will be her Swahili interpreter since
Okay.
it's a spur of the moment inspiration.
Just make sure that you both speak into the microphone so people at home can hear.
Nafurahi kuwaona.
I'm very happy to see you all.
Mimi nilifika hapa nikapata shamba ya kulima.
When I arrived here, I received a garden for farming.
Hivi ni miaka 10 niko nalima.
It's actually been 10 years that I have been farming here.
Yeah, nafurahia nikitoka kazini naenda kulima nasikia vizuri sana.
So when I leave work, I go to the farm and I just feel so good.
Na tunafurahia wakubwa wetu wanakuwa karibu yetu wanatusaidia kila kitu.
And we're grateful for these people from IRC. They work with us and it makes us really happy to work together.
Nafurahi sana kuwa na garden.
And I'm just so happy to have a garden.
Asante.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, that's our final speaker for Community Matters. There would be another opportunity for public comment later in the meeting. So now we're at the consent agenda. Ms. Thomas, could you please read the consent agenda?
Do we need to appoint?
We do. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yikes. Thank you, Michael. Coming out of closed session, we had one piece of information we needed to share with the group, and that is that we are reappointing Mr. Phil Garber to the Retirement Commission. I think that's all we need to say. We need to vote on that. Yeah.
I would so move.
Second.
Second. Thank you. If you'd not stepped in, we would have had to deal with this yet another week. Okay. All right. Now on to the consent agenda.
Much shorter than last meeting. Okay. Number 4, minutes, March 18th regular meeting and the June 25th joint council CRHA meeting. Number 5, resolution to appropriate funds for the Virginia Department of Education Special Nutrition Program Summer Food Service Program, $100,000, one of 2 readings.
Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, please cast your vote. All right, that motion passes. Mr. Sanders, is there a report from the city manager's office?
Yes, sir. As the chief is coming forward, I have invited him to come and give a presentation of some latest information in regards to crime activity in the city of Charlottesville. And it feels rather fitting based on a couple of the comments this evening, and we're not surprised by those from things that we've been hearing. But what I would like to say before he starts, and I'm sure he will reiterate the same, is that we recognize the frustration. We all are working to address this, and I implore every citizen in this community, if you witness a crime, please call, period. Regardless of what has happened in the past, what you may believe may or may not happen, let's stop that behavior and simply call, period. The records matter. It's important for us to have those records on file. That then can change some of the choices that we make in how we proceed. So I just want to state that clearly and turn it over to the chief for his comments.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, councilors. So to some of the comments that were said before, I think it's important to kind of put some of the numbers I'm about to talk to in perspective. The shots fired call that Mr. Rock talks about, he doesn't live far from my house. That woke me up as well, and I'm guilty I didn't call. And so I say that because to talk about the numbers and the progress we're making in this area, you know, it still isn't comfort to a lot of folks whose home was shot 41 times, or some of the stories I hear when on our community walks. So it does matter. And so I don't want what I'm about to show with these numbers, excuse me, to overshadow that, because it is how people feel matters. And so, and we're going to do our part. So with that, we'll go into our. So first we'll talk about Part 1 crime. Part 1 crime is our most serious crime: robbery, homicide, aggravated assault. Larcenies do also kind of enter into that as well. And that's Part 1 crime is how the FBI kind of records data that we report on a regular basis. So the city right now, how we look at the city at the police department from a data standpoint, it's separated into 3 different districts: north, central, and south. Each district has a commander assigned to it. And during our monthly meeting, our community staff meeting, they stand up in front of us, they look at the data, look at their district, talk about what they're doing to address the specific issues, hotspots, all of that kind of stuff. Currently, year-to-date compared to 2023, Part 1 crime is down 5%. Then we talk about gun violence incidents. Now, the FBI doesn't necessarily consider shots fired calls or gun violence incidents as a reporting standard, but we feel that it tells a story. So we track that data. So total shots fired this year compared to 2023, so January to May 2023 compared to this year, January to May of 2024, it's down 28%. Gun violence cases is any incident involving a firearm that we track through our data, through whether it's CAD, through police reports, officer respond, all of that kind of stuff. And that is down 50% compared to the same time period as last year. And so it's interesting, as I was kind of looking at this stuff, it's like, you know, where were we this time last year? And I think this tells a story. So this time last year, we had 5 homicides. So far, we had 1. You know, 1's too many. I mean, we can't forget that. That's a real life, it's a real family, it's a real people. Aggravated assault is down 28%. And robbery is down 25%. And so how did we get there? And I'm going to talk about some of the things we're doing, some of the things we've done over the last year. And I'm going to use 2 examples, 2 areas that we've historically over the years, if you just look at our crime and data mapping, you see these communities that continue to be disproportionately affected by violent crimes, the same ones. So we did a 3-year average and kind of where we were and what we're doing. And really it is, you know, I bring this up as we're talking about kind of a focused deployment of resources. And so for Prospect Avenue from 2021 to 2023, it accounted for about 9% of all gun violence incidents in the city of Charlottesville. There were 67 gun violence incidents on Prospect Ave during that time frame, making it the most popular location for gun violence. During January through May of 2024, we started really looking at that data, paying attention to it, having our commanders accountable for what we're doing, what the officers are actually doing when they're out on the street. And so officers conducted 429 extra patrols between January and May. That means when I say extra patrols, that's showing up, getting out on foot, talking to folks, meeting people, getting to know who lives in the community. And as a result, you can see since January, CPD has only responded to 4 gun violence incidents on Prospect Avenue. This represents less than 4% of all gun violence in the city of Charlottesville in 2024. And it's a 54% decrease in gun violence on Prospect Avenue versus the 3-year average. So if you look at Hardy Drive, we've done a similar focused deployment of resources. So again, from 2021 to 2023, Hardy Drive accounted for about 7% of all gun violence incidents in the city of Charlottesville. There were 48 gun violence incidents on Hardy Drive during this time, making it the second most popular location for gun violence. During January through May of 2024, CPD officers have conducted and logged 1,107 extra patrols and foot patrols on Hardy Drive. It's a 146% increase from 2023 during the same period. Since January, we have only responded to 2 gun violence incidents on Hardy Drive. Both occurred in January. This represents less than 2% of gun violence in the city of Charlottesville in 2024 and a 75% decrease in gun violence on Hardy Drive versus 3-year average through January and May. And again, that's that focused deployment of resources, but not only just deployment of resources, but what are they doing there? I was up there not too long ago talking to Ms. Johnson from FAR who works up there. And, she was just telling me how happy she was to see and get to know the officer. She's like, hey, Officer O'Brien, he's up there. He's up here all the time. He walks around. He tells me he's out here getting his exercise, walking through the neighborhood, talking to people, getting to know folks. And that's what we want to see our officers do. Get out there, get to know folks in the community, and be that presence. So when something does happen, they'll tell us, and they'll feel comfortable calling us. And so what has really worked between these two areas, specifically up on Hardy Drive, it's kind of one of them things that we looked back year after year. It continued to show these as a hotspot. And so we've really focused on directed covert and overt deployment of resources. And what is that? Covert is, different operations. If we have a specific person we are looking for, a specific address that is a problem, that we look into it and investigate it. And then obviously the overt is that high visibility officers out there in the community doing the work. We focused on procedurally just policing and interactions. Again, it's that person-to-person interaction that we need and that we've really been focusing on. We've continued the relationship building with residents and stakeholders within the community. I believe our relationship with CRHA has gotten much better. Mr. Sales has been great to work with. I've spoken with him a lot recently, especially with some of the recent incidents that we've had in the areas. So I'm really optimistic there. And then the future identification of hotspots within the hotspot. So everybody has seen what those hotspot maps look like. So now what I'm asking in our community stat meeting to our commander in that sector is, what's the hotspot within the hotspot? Meaning, what's causing that to continue to be a hotspot? Is it a specific address? Is it a specific thing? Our community stat meeting, the last one, we had our public works director there, that he'll continue to go, and we're going to continue to expand presence from other department heads and departments within the city, because when you look at these hotspots, sometimes it's not just a police response that's going to address it. It could be an overgrown sidewalk that you might not be able to walk down, or stuff like that. So we're really excited about expanding this model and moving forward. And so all of this is kind of within the framework of Project Safe Neighborhoods. We signed on to that probably about a year ago now. And Project Safe Neighborhoods is really broken down into 3 sections. One is community engagement, prevention, intervention to reduce future violence. 2 is focused and strategic enforcement, many would call focused deterrence. And then 3 is collecting and using data to really guide our decision-making on enforcement and prevention efforts. And that's what I was just talking about, that we talk about in our community stat meeting. So when we break it down, the first one, community engagement, prevention, and intervention, I've spoken about the different community events we do. We're out there in the community, we're talking to folks, whether it be community walks, whether it be just building relationships and being present through different events like a community police academy, stuff of that nature. And then, again, events that's just really designed to force conversations, force us to be present, and force relationships that can be built. But one of the things that is unique about Project Safe Neighborhoods and the model that we're using is identifying prolific offenders and offer focused services. And so what does that mean? Most of what we see in the area of gun violence are the same folks. It's a small group of people, but it continues to be the same folks. So it's being able to identify those individuals and then outreach to them. We bring them in and we offer them services. We say, to the right of me is human services. social services. Here are all these services that offer to you. What do we need to help you go down this different path? Because if you choose not to go on this path, to the left of me is the full weight of the federal and state government that's going to investigate and do everything we can to keep our community safe. And right now, we've identified you as an individual that is at risk to go down that road, and we want to prevent that from happening. And so we had our first meeting with service providers probably about 3 weeks ago. We're working with the Equity Center at UVA right now. And everyone from juvenile and adult probation to nonprofits, to human services that were there. Because one thing we have to make sure is that when we offer those services, that they have the capacity to do it. We don't want to bring someone and say, hey, what do you need? They tell us what they need, and then we're like, well, we can't do that. So we had that meeting first. I think we have a pretty good idea where we are, and we're getting ready to actually start doing that outreach. And then strategic and focused enforcement. This is in many different ways, whether it be the operation that we've been doing since the recent shootings that we had about 2 weeks ago, where we've been identifying those individuals involved in those shootings, putting cases on them, and identifying them and arresting them, and then making sure that they're prosecuted. To whether we need to use a federal grand jury investigation or local, state, through the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. The Commonwealth Attorney is also working with us through Project Safe Neighborhoods. Actually has a cross-designated assistant Commonwealth Attorney who is cross-designated through the federal courts. So if we have a case, they can make a determination if it's best suited for state court or federal court. So it really is a team effort between law enforcement and the courts, or prosecution. And then collecting data, like I spoke about, it really is about looking at where things are happening, when they're happening, the timing, and how we're going to deploy our resources. I need my officers to be where they're needed the most. And then, as we know, and I've said this many times, look, we're not going to do this on our own. This has to be a whole of community approach. I'm asked often, like, how did we get the numbers where they are? First thing I'll say, it's not time to spike the football, because you can listen to the folks that just got up here and say, that those are real issues. Those are real concerns that people have. And so we can't ignore that. But I can tell you, and I think I'd be ignorant to say it didn't have some role in it, but our local nonprofits, our community stakeholders, probably for the last year, I remember we had 5 homicides the first 6 months last year, and I got to tell you, the community they wanted to do something about it. And they really stepped up in a big way, and so I appreciate it, and we're going to continue to work as a good partner. So I'm often asked, where are these firearms coming from? And I will tell you, over the last 2 weeks, of those 5 arrests that have been made, we recovered 10 firearms. These firearms, we're talking AR-15 style weapons, AK-47 style weapons, pistols with switches on it to make them fully automatic, extended magazines. And so where are they getting them from? And I got to tell you, we've had 12 stolen firearms in the city of Charlottesville out of vehicles. I'm sorry, half of these were stolen. 6 of them were out of vehicles. One car alone, 3 weapons were stolen out of a car, unlocked. There was an AR-15, a .22 long rifle, and a .45 caliber pistol stolen out of a vehicle parked overnight, unlocked. And so, one of the things we really need to kind of get out there is, if you're going to be a gun owner, be a responsible gun owner. Don't leave them in your cars. Don't leave them unlocked. Because what you're doing is you're arming our community, and you're getting guns in the hands of people that shouldn't have them. And so these are some of the seized firearms. This year alone, we've seized 31 firearms since January. And these ones that you're looking at right here were within the last 2 weeks. With that, I'll take questions.
Questions?
Chief, one thing that struck after listening to the folks talking about Charlton and that neighborhood, we know that there historically has been, well, I'll term the squeeze the balloon problem. You tighten up in one area, it blossoms in another area. And just in the last 20 years or so that I've been dealing with crimes of this nature in my legal practice, There was a time when 10th and Page was the spot. There was a time when Dice Street was the spot. Is there some reason to believe that Charlton Avenue is now the spot?
Obviously there was a shots fired call the other night that Mr. Rock was telling me about, that I was talking about. Actually, nobody called. I think we're all guilty of not calling it in. We did locate some cartridge casings the next day over on the street. But if you remember back, I think it was like November or December, there were some shootings. There was a beef between a neighbor and then folks who were living in another house there. And we haven't had we haven't had a ton of shootings there, but I will tell you, I do share the concern about the open air drug dealing on Charlton, so we are seeing that. We've done some things over there. Recently, City Council approved our budget request to fill this, or to join the 3A task force, which is a state police task force that focuses on mid to upper level narcotic drug trafficking organizations and gang activity. And so we're in the process of working with them through that. So, but you know, yeah, Charlton's one of our hotspots right now that we're focusing on, and that we're trying to come up with some solutions. You know, there's a balance, you know, between those who are low-level drug dealers and maybe dealing to support their own habit. Services, I will tell you, I was on a call the other day. I was shocked that the closest inpatient clinic is like 60 miles away. I had no idea.
For a drug?
Yeah. And so it seems like we continue to have these conversations about these essential services to address some of the root causes of what we're seeing in our community. And by the time it comes to a head, like on Charlton or stuff, then we're the ones getting the call and have to address it. And so we do try to use a balanced approach. You know, we do focus on mid to upper level drug dealing as opposed to the street level stuff. But look, when you allow that to occur out in the open all the time, unchecked, things can escalate. And I think we see that. So I know that's kind of a long answer, or maybe it isn't an answer, but yes.
The folks that these residents have experience with, it sounds like on a very frequent basis, are they people that live there? Or are they just sort of passing through, or?
It's probably 2 or 3 houses.
I see.
And we have been in the process of identifying owners, but some of the folks own those homes there, which makes it a little bit more difficult, because if somebody owns a home and is renting it and they're out, we could actually speak to that homeowner and say, hey, your home is becoming what's considered a common nuisance in a neighborhood. But that's a little bit more challenging when the folks involved actually own the home. So, but yeah.
I see.
So, but typically it's the folks visiting those folks, but they are guests.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, the 2 neighborhoods that you highlighted were Prospect and Hardy Drive, and how the data shows that violence is down in those neighborhoods, and that correlates with your increase in patrols of those neighborhoods.
It does. That's what the data is showing. But I think there's other things that clearly impact it. I think the community just becoming sick of it. They're stepping up and they're calling us more. They're engaging with us more. They're talking to us. So, it's not just us all alone. I'd love to try to take credit for that, but I'm not.
Well, so that kind of leads to my question, which is, how has the community responded to that? I know there's a complicated relationship with feeling over-policed versus, having it be effective. And so how has that neighborhood responded to the increased presence? And with that in mind, I noticed you use the term forcing relationships with people. And so kind of, can you talk a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like talking like, hey, force you to like me type of thing. No.
Yeah, what does that mean?
No, it's like, it's being present. It's a conscious decision of, we are going to be present in this space, and present in a way that isn't like we're taking over a community, So one of the answers to your question about what are we hearing from the community, I was asked why the downtown mall has an officer and West Haven doesn't. They want a designated officer in West Haven. That's what I'm told from folks who live in West Haven. And so I have not heard from any neighborhood who is disproportionately affected by violent crime. I've never heard they want less police. I've heard they want good policing. They want procedurally just policing. There's a difference. We all know what over-policing looks like. And so we have to be very careful not to do that. That's why, if you notice when we talk about focused deterrence, it really is a focused approach on what we're doing when we're in those neighborhoods. You know, we're being present, we're building relationships, but we're also trying to identify what makes that spot the hotspot, right? Like where is the problem resident there, right? And then we can work with CRHA. Is it a problem residents that have been given warnings, that have been told, hey, you can't do this or that through CRHA, but it's come to a point where it's like, you know what, you're making it where other folks don't want to live here, don't feel safe here anymore. And so, yeah, I know it's a long answer, but you know, we've gotten a very good response, and we've been asked to be there more.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, it's encouraging. The numbers, the statistics that you've shown, it does feel like from a year or two ago that things are in a better place. But there's clearly a lot more work to be done. But I'll just say that I'm grateful for the improvement, and I thank you and your staff and the work they've done and do, and then all the other folks that the city manager has. I think it has been a holistic approach to this. I think I also am grateful for the residents who came down tonight and were very forceful and clear about this is what's happening in our neighborhood, and I hope that we'll give them that kind of focus as well.
Absolutely.
So just a few more comments. Again, just wanting to make sure that the public at large hears, because there have been questions of, what are y'all doing? Why does it seem like no one's doing anything? Just want to assure you that that's not how I roll, just being honest. That is not how it's happening. The chief has had many conversations with me on a regular basis as I'm asking questions and looking at the approaches and the things that we're doing. Just want to, again, remind everyone, please call, just call. It's hard to push through that, but please call. I also want to just share that I did meet with a few community leaders in the past week or so, asking for ideas and approaches that can be taken for some of the issues that we're facing. Gun violence is a challenging issue. It is a community issue. There is no one silver bullet matter that you could identify, bad pun, in being able to address the situation. It's going to take all of us to continually focus on what are the things that we can do, and we're looking for those things, and we're looking for people who can step in and play a role in that. In addition, we're pushing hard right now to get our co-responder model up and running. That's going to be a chance for us to intervene in a different way when a person is in crisis, when a police officer is called. That won't be the case anymore. We'll have a different type of response and hopefully be able to address the issue that the person may be facing. And the goal would be to ensure that we can get them the help that they need. So there's some additional work that needs to be done in that space. And while I'm on it, I might as well shift right into the other easy topic that I have to deal with on a daily basis, and that is the unhoused population in our community. That's a challenge that every community across this country is dealing with. It's hard for anyone to figure out exactly what to do. There is no single answer. There is no one right way to deal with the matter, because these are individuals that themselves are in crisis. They're out there for a reason, and many people tend to look past what the reasons are. And the goal for us is to not do that. I've heard from a lot of people who have implored us to not lose sight of the fact that people are going through things, and we need to figure that out. But I also want to reassure individuals that have expressed more recently outrage at what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. I too find some things unacceptable. There are a number of things that we're going to work with people to do better at. So we're looking at strategies for being able to do that. And the Supreme Court decision that people believe solved something last week solved absolutely nothing. It just gives us the ability to do something that I know a lot of people in this community don't want us to do. So there's a balance that we have to strike in regards to that. So it's my desire to continue to work at this with a scalpel, not a hatchet, and to do our best to ensure that we don't lose ourselves in how we address this. But I've been working on homelessness since October because that was a rough moment for me personally. And we are closer to an overnight shelter, permanent overnight shelter, closer than we have ever been before in the city, from my understanding. So I do hope that there will be some quick resolution to what we've been working on and be able to bring that forward. And that will be a way for us to intervene in a big way. It won't be the solution all by itself, I assure you of that. So we know that there are many more steps that are involved in being able to do that. So again, I just wanted to express that. I know that our community has been in an uproar at various times, struggling with some of the things that happen. I've talked about boring government. This isn't the boring part of it because this is what keeps me up at night. These are the things that I'm trying to work through and figure out how to deploy this team, the whole team, at a really responding to some of these issues. So please know that we're not sitting on our hands and not doing something. We're trying to figure things out, and we would love to be a model for other communities to come here and figure out how they can do what we've been able to pull off here. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the city manager? All right, so we are going to move now to action items. Item number 6 on the agenda is a public hearing and resolution for issuing bonds. So Christy Hamill, will you please introduce the item for the public hearing?
Good evening, council. We're here tonight to talk about issuing some bonds for both projects that were approved in the 24 CIP, but also in previous CIPs. If you look at the table on the, I believe it's page 51 of your packet, you'll see that we are looking to issue about $63.5 million of bonds for projects for public facilities, public schools, and then also for the utilities. If you had a chance to read the resolution, you'll see that we're asking you to authorize up to $65 million and an additional $25 million for refunding debt. The difference in those two numbers is that as the market changes, interest rates rise and fall, it gives us more flexibility to structure the bond deal so that we can get the amount of cash that we need, and so changing par values change the total dollar amount of the bond issue. We are looking to refund, we are tracking the market. We continue to review the possibility of refunding either all or a portion of the 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015 bonds. Again, it'll depend on the market when we get there, but we're working with our financial advisors on that.
Ms. Hamill, when you say refund, in other words, someone has bought those bonds from us from 2012 or whenever, and we can cash those back, as it were, I guess?
It's like, it's
Based on
equivalent to
interest.
refinancing, essentially.
Got it.
So we would actually refund, we would sell more new bonds at a lower rate, refund those at the higher rate, and then they would become part of the new bond issue, but at a lower cost.
I see, okay. I thought it must be something like that. You helped.
Yep. So we have scheduled rating calls with the bond rating agencies. We did have them visit the city last year. This year we'll just be doing a call. We are not anticipating any issues or stress on the bond rating. As you may recall, there are only 4 cities in the state of Virginia that have a AAA bond rating. We are one of those. The other 3 are Alexandria, Fairfax, and Virginia Beach. If you include counties, there are only 12 cities or counties in Virginia that are rated AAA in the state. So that's quite an accomplishment. As I mentioned, or if I didn't, the sale is scheduled for early August with closing anticipated by the end of August. Interest rates are higher than they've been in the past. We've been looking at historically low interest rates in the 1.5 range. We're probably looking to something closer to 3.5 probably. Good news is, we've been counting on this in our projections, so it doesn't drastically change what that looks like. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
And so this basically sort of makes good on our commitments in the CIP that we're going to do various projects. This is basically where the brass tacks of actually going out to the market and getting the funds that we need to do those projects.
It is. And I think this is probably the largest bond issue in my tenure here that we've contemplated. This is largely due to Belmont School, Beaufort School. And so that is well on its way, and we are cashing in on our plan to finance that.
Okay, are there any clarifying questions?
Couple.
Okay.
Thanks. Does this put us anywhere close to risking our AAA bond rating at all?
It does not. I will remind you that our low debt burden is one of the factors that we are consistently checking off in the good column. However, we've been talking to the rating agencies in anticipation of this bond issue. We also have done some things knowing it was forthcoming. Several years ago, we raised our minimum fund balance policy, and so no. We've planned for it, we have a plan to pay for it, and so there should not be any reason to feel that it jeopardizes our bond rating.
Okay, great. And this still, I'm going to get this maybe wrong from budget season, I'm trying to remember.
No worries.
We do 17% of our budget goes to debt service?
So we have a 17% as our fund balance policy, so we maintain at least 17% of the budget as our fund balance. We have a debt policy which says that we will issue no more debt than 10% of our general fund with a target of 9%. This bond issue, or at the end of 24, it puts us at about 6%, and with this bond issue, it's just a little over 6%. So we're still well within
our
that.
parameters.
I would note, though, as we've talked about, it's not really our capacity, but I did some quick math just to give you our current debt service right now. Is about $14 million, just under $14 million a year, and that equates to about 12.5 cents on the tax rate.
And that's current?
Correct.
And so how would this change that?
So $65 million will be, depending on our interest rates, will be somewhere between $4 to $5 million debt payment on this bond issue. Again, with our projections and with the fund balance we've been drawing down, we are trying to level out that general fund transfer to debt service, but we will be talking about, and as we have been talking about, we're looking at probably $1 million increase a year over the next few years to pay for this increased debt.
And then it would hold?
Depending on how you plan out your CIP. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other clarifying questions?
I have a question that if it seems to be coming too far out of left field, tell me.
Okay.
But I was actually, maybe one of the few times I've read through some of these documents, and there's a term that I'm puzzled by. It talks about the true or Canadian interest cost. What is a Canadian interest cost?
So, I don't know, but I can tell you what the true interest cost is. Typically, what we talk about with the true interest cost is there are other things that are innate with the bond issue, the cost of issuance, our underwriter fees, all those things. And so all of that gets factored in. It's not just the coupon rate or the rate we are repaying. So we always calculate a true interest rate, which is when I talk to you about our interest rates, that's what I'm speaking to.
Which in a consumer context would be like the APR on a car loan as opposed to just the straight
Correct.
8% or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
But I will find out about the Canadian and I will let you know. I had not seen that.
Bottom of page 55.
Okay, thank you.
Page 2 of the...
Yeah, page 2 of the document.
Resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find out.
Okay, if there's no further clarifying questions, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no further speakers, the public hearing is now closed. council, is there any discussion?
I would simply note that I think I am correct in saying that the Buford rebuilding project is the most expensive capital project Charlottesville has ever undertaken. And so it is not surprising that this would happen to be the largest bond issue we've ever undertaken.
That's correct.
Okay.
We've been talking about that. That is correct.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
I would move approval of the resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, please cast your vote. The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, item 7 is an ordinance authorizing a grant of public funding having to do with South First Street Phase 2. Mr. Alex Ikafuna will present.
Good evening, councilors. What is before you tonight is essentially approval of agreements for the funding that the City Council already authorized to support redevelopment activities for the Phase 2 of South First Street by CRHA. There is a $6 million, $3 million initially approved by the City Council before, and then another $3 million to help support the development. There is a total of 113 units for this Phase 2. I believe the existing unit to be demolished to make way for the construction of this 113 units. It's 52 units for which CRHA is seeking a demolition permit from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The project is scheduled to, construction is scheduled to start in December of 2024 with 18 to 24 months completion timeline in fall of 2026. The CRHA Executive Director, John Sales, is with us via Zoom, and if there is any questions that staff is unable to answer, John will be able to clarify or provide answers to those questions. So essentially, again, Council is being asked tonight to approve the agreement which has stipulations on how the funding is supposed to be spent. And again, the $6 million has already been approved by the City Council in the past. Just the agreement tonight. I will take any questions that Council may have.
Any questions for Mr. Kafuna?
And this is first of second reading.
Correct.
Just in case.
Could you refresh I think we heard about this last week, but just to refresh everybody's recollection, when is the actual construction of Phase 2 likely to begin?
December of 2024.
This year.
Yes.
Okay. And to be completed by?
Probably September or December 2026.
So expected almost a 2-year construction.
Yeah, usually it takes 18 months to 24 months to complete.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is, we've already approved this money as part of the CIP.
Exactly.
It fits within our affordable housing plan.
That's correct.
This is essentially the
agreement.
The brass tacks. This is getting down to everything that's involved in actually working with CRHA to get this money dispersed and spent and tracked accordingly and so forth.
That's correct.
Okay.
I've got a quick question. If the language says a grant of up to $6 million, is there any reason why it wouldn't get to $6 million?
That's, I think, actually, that was the language that the city attorney in the past said it's up to $6 million. So the funding is $6 million, but we just...
That's just a semantic thing. Okay. I wasn't sure if there was like something that would happen if it didn't get there, but of course it will. Okay.
In theory, they could get some additional grants or something like that that might make some of it unnecessary.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, is there agreement to carry this item to the July 15th meeting for the second reading and vote on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Is that good with everyone?
Yeah. Okay. And just a clarification before, late last week. The CRHA and their development team, they made some changes. And those changes basically has to do with the timelines. So we are going to update the resolution to reflect the timelines for the next council meeting.
Okay,
That's the additional item that you received.
Oh.
It's just adding further detail.
Ah.
So this will be language to replace what's in the memo, the agenda memo that was in the packet.
Oh, okay.
I think it largely moves it from July to September.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the content. Is there anything relative, Ms. Thomas, to how this gets picked up for the consent agenda?
Your office would just need to make those changes and just notify me that they've been made.
Okay.
Okay, but we can still handle this as part of a second reading in the consent agenda.
If you all are okay with that?
Yeah.
So we move to have it with this updated language added to the consent agenda.
Correct. And I'll just read this for public's
That'd be good.
benefit of the public. Update on time frame, financial closing and construction start, September 2024. Construction must begin by September 30, 2024. Potential one-time 90-day extension request by September 1, 2024. Again, these are update on timeframes that are within the document in the packet. Construction and development cost disbursement period, September 2024 to September 2026. Construction completed, September 2026. Retention of funds until project completion, retainage of $300,000 until 100% construction completion, and issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Okay, so we are agreed to put this on the consent agenda for the 15th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, item 8 on the action items. This is a resolution to approve an agreement of lease with the International Rescue Committee for property at 410 Old Lynchburg Road. If Mr. Anthony and Ms. Kelly would please come forward to share.
Thank you, everybody. Council, this is a lease that we've been working with IRC for a very long time. The city purchased, aka Morris Creek, roughly about 6 months ago, and we've been working diligently with IRC in order to make this lease happen. And today we present council with the lease. And again, just want to thank Chris Genzik and Brenda Kelly for assisting us and working diligently through this lease. If you have any further questions, please let me know.
I have no questions. Do y'all?
Is this lease, is it a new one or is this a renewal?
So previously it was owned, not a city property. The city bought the property and it's in Albemarle County. So once we acquired the land, we had to redo the lease. So for the city, it's a new lease, but this lease has been existing with the previous owner.
Okay, thank you. It's a little bit of both. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any further questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second. All right. Please cast your votes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our action items. Councilors, are there any other items for consideration, or do you have any further questions for the city manager for follow-up? No? Okay. We're now at the final speaking opportunity for members of the public. Individuals in council chambers, you may raise your hand to be recognized to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak? No? Okay. Well, with that, then we have no further business, and this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.